Okay, I think let's begin. Yeah, Harshini, are you here? She said she'll take 5 minutes. Okay, anyway, I'll bring her up to speed. All right. So this month I'm going to do lettering with you because I found that with um, on many occasions when lettering is required, there is there are a few things that are missing, and it's for no fault of ours. It's just because we are taught lettering in a very functional manner. So when we are taught lettering in school, it's about writing just the basic rules of writing. Start your sentences with capitals, then you have spellings, then you have maybe slightly bold letters, but hardly anything as far as lettering aesthetic is concerned. And then when you want to do something like journals, or even if you want to make posters or something, very often I've seen people who just take a big fat sketch pen and then write on a poster the same way you would on a regular paper. And you know it's not looking good, but you feel, Arey, I don't know what to change or how to make it better. So I'm going to go over some rules of how lettering came about. So when you understand the history of lettering and also how it became functional, you will start seeing it more as a tool out of which you can do art. So this is something we should have been taught in school. So lettering, as the way we know it in the form of Roman letters, has been around for about 2,500 years only. The script that we write in is called the Latin script. The script and language are two different things. There are different languages that use the same script. So you have everything from English, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, which use one kind of script, and that is the Latin script. Then you have languages like Russian, Romanian, which use a script that is called Cyrillic, which is a different script altogether. Then you have Indian languages, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, even the South Indian languages, they use Devanagari. So even the southern languages that we know of with all those jilbi-like forms, they still draw from Devanagari. And that Devanagari script is different from, again, Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a language, Devanagari is the script. So each region developed their own written form of a language, and that was called the script. And whichever script became most prevalent, because either that kingdom was the strongest or the most prolific, they either imposed their script or it was easier to adopt their script for whatever language you used. That way they could communicate with the locals. So the same thing happened in Europe. The Romans started conquering left, right, and center. And at the height of the Roman Empire, it spread right from the middle of the United Kingdom, where you have the Hadrian's Wall, right from there through all of Europe, almost towards all the way to Iran. It was a huge, huge empire. And if you think about it, how do you maintain law and order in such a huge space? So it helped to have one language or at least one script so that you could send out edicts, you could send out, say, forms or diktats, and everyone would know what is happening, who's in charge, who owns everything. And even within people, I have my house, I have proof that my house is mine and yours is yours, so that there is no fighting. So all of that is why language turned into script, because we needed written record. So when the Romans had captured this entire land, you will see wherever you travel in Europe, there will always be these arches or these like the Arc de Triomphe. The tradition was that any new region that was acquired, that region financed and built an arch through which the emperor would march to claim that land as their own. So either it was the emperor or one of his generals. So they're littered all over. And also on the arch would be an inscription that would tell you where, which battle this was, who was the emperor at that time, and all the information that you need regarding that arch. So now, what happened was that if you wanted this written everywhere, you needed to train people to write the same script everywhere. And what I enjoy about the Roman script is that it is one of the most beautifully organized script as far as it can be made, so that within a certain matrix, everyone can write the same letters and they will look exactly the same. So, in the absence of that matrix, in the absence of a given proportion, all of our handwriting looks different. But the moment I give you proportion, you will be able to make that script exactly identical. So, you would have an Englishman sitting somewhere near London making an arch, and you would have an Irani somewhere in the east making an arch, and their scripts will look exactly the same. That is actually a phenomenal achievement as far as lettering is concerned, simply because 2500 years ago only a fraction of the population could read. So to invest so much time in developing something that was just for the sake of the glory of the king or the emperor, I think was a very, it was much more than they needed to do, and it holds us in good stead today. Because, simply because of how the script worked through, through the Roman Empire till its fall, it held sway. So in 800 AD, when a person named Charlemagne, who came from a Germanic tribe, conquered Europe, he knew that if he had to unify Europe under him, he would have to unify the script. And by then, 800 years after the script had become very formal, all the people in different regions had adopted the script and it had become very disparate. So, in the history of calligraphy, you have lots of scripts all over the place. So, you have a Gothic like script in Germany, then you will have a much delicate script in France and Spain and Portugal. So people couldn't understand each other. They just couldn't understand their writing, and forget that, they couldn't understand the languages. So in 800 AD, he appointed an English friar, a monk, to make one script for all, which was called the Carolingian script, which became the mother of what we now use all over the world as the Latin script. So I could go on for like a month about scripts, but this is the basic you need to know. Now, to go a little further behind, how did writing begin? Like I said, writing began only to document what you need to know as far as property is concerned, so that there is no dispute. So property, finances, taxes, these are the things that require noting down. And in the beginning, literally people would just make marks. So I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary that I sent. I had sent a link last week. If I haven't, then I'm going to send it again, because that is my absolute comfort documentary to go to. When there's nothing to watch, I just go and watch that. This is a documentary by Donald Jackson. It's a 4-part documentary split into 2 YouTube videos. You have to watch it. So from making marks about 5,000 years ago, to creating something like hieroglyphs, which then could be interpreted as words. From there, coming to scripts like you have the Phoenician script, to this Latin alphabet, and through all our scripts. All this happened over maybe the past 7,000 years or so. But why it's important to note this is because for us, the mark is important. If your mark can communicate, then you can make that mark anyhow, on anything, with any tool. And the reason why I want to stress that is because when you are doing lettering, you need not wait for the perfect tool, the perfect paper, and the perfect ink. You do need substitutes for all of this. So you need a surface, you need a tool to write with, and you need something that is going to, some kind of pigment that is going to make a mark on that surface. Knowing this is very important when you get into lettering, because the more you experiment with tools, the better your lettering will become. You will start making more and more independent fonts that you can use. I mean, wherever you look, you can literally pick up anything and write with it. And I want you to try to do that in the next month as we go along. So today I'm going to focus on Roman letters and give you a little glimpse of how the letter works in a matrix form. We are going to start off with first writing the alphabet the way you write it, all capital letters, no small letters at this point. So in a small corner on your page on the left, you can write the alphabet in a little block like this, just as a starting point. So you know what you recognize as letters, and then we will see how those letters change at the end of the class. Okay, so this is just as functional as you can get. Now the guides for the Roman letters start with a square. So just make a freehand square, and within that square, make a circle. Now connect the diagonals. And the intersection of the diagonal and the circle at these 4 points. You will make vertical lines that connect the 2 diagonal meeting circle points on the 2 sides. So effectively, we have 3 different measurements. We have this space in between. This is 1. This is between the 2 inner verticals. Then we have 1 for the second space, which is the outer verticals, which is the entire square. And then we are going to draw a line cutting this square in half. And that is going to be our third measure, which is half of this square. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So these letters will fit into this this block in a different proportion. Each of these letters are going to fit differently. So let's make these 3 blocks again. Make them smaller this time. 3 small squares. with a circle and diagonals. Diagonals running across. So the first one, we will make the narrow square. Okay, again, the narrowing lines run through the cross section of the diagonal and the circle. That is where this line runs through. If any of these lines are confusing, then just ask me and I will clarify. The second square is just the whole square, circle and diagonal. And the third square is cut in half. Right? So we have 1, 2, oh sorry, this is 1, 2 and 3. So let's address the letters which use up the whole circle first. So the most obvious one over here is the letter O, which goes across the entire circle. The circle itself is an O. Okay, so that's the letter O. Then we have the Q. For Q, you will just take a little line from the corner over here, very close to where the diagonal comes, and extend it outward and a little below what is called the baseline. And I'm going to tell you some terminology also. Then you have the letter C, which is from here, goes around the circle and ends here. So where it ends, sometimes it can come even a little lower and ends exactly at this point where you would have that, the guideline for slimming our square. On the same line, you would also have G, which would just be an extension line up. So there's a very interesting story about the letters C and G. Originally, only the letter C was used for both sounds, C and G. But in 2030 BC, there was a guy who had a school where he taught how to write letters. He must have gotten really fed up that these students, instead of making a C, were making a G everywhere, and decided that I'm going to add a small stroke above the C and convert that to G. So the next time I ask you to get me my coat, I don't want you to get me a goat. So this is documented evidence. All right, and now I don't know if you can see it, but the corollary of the G will also give us the D. It doesn't go all the way to the end, as you might notice. It comes in the narrow part, but it follows the rest in the whole of the circle on the right. So you have C, D, G, Q, and O. Now let's move to the first block. In this, let us make some vertical lines, cutting the square in half vertically, and also let's make horizontal. This is just adding more accuracy to our shapes. Our first letter will be,
Sorry, I think I missed a G. Where does G come?
Oh, the G is exactly as the C, and you extend the line up, not at the end
Ah,
of the square, but just here, where the slimmer version of the square comes. This one, at this line, but here. Now here you'll notice I have not gone to the end of the square for the letter A. It comes a little narrower. That is the measurement for all the next letters. You have A, then you have H, and of course you will have V, then you will have an N, you will have T, you will have a Z.
it was a T, the one before Z.
Yes, correct. T. I'll just write all these down here. A, H, V, T, Z, N. Then,
W.
sorry?
W takes up the
There's no
whole
W,
space.
no W here. No. Wait for that. That doesn't come here. So here we've got all these letters. Then we have a Y. You can already see the Y. And you can also see the X. And one letter that we make over here is the letter U. Now in the last one,
L.
sorry?
L is not in this grid.
No, that all comes in this one. So now there's a few that we will fit over here. We will fit L, E, and F. That all fits in over here. You'll obviously have I, which is just that. Now, spacing of the I and J and all, I will let you know how that goes. Then you have the K. For now, we are going to make it like this, but there is a different measure or different kind of K that we do. So I'm going to put K over here separately. L, E, F, K. And then we have all the letters with bowls. So you have B, P obviously, and the R, though you see it over here, you extend the leg of the R from a little away from this junction. Now in this space also you can make an X, Y, and Z, but I prefer to make it in the number one block. So P, B, R, I, and J. And J is, I'm going to make it over here so it's slightly visible. J will be made like this. the crossbar doesn't extend all the way there. It'll come to about halfway. And there's another J that I make, which comes this way and goes outward like that. I find that a little better, but these are personal choices. Now the two letters that are slightly tricky are the letters W and M. So for W and M, we still start off with exactly the same guide grid, but the grid is extended outward this amount, this little extra amount on the left and right, almost like a marginal space. And a lot of the measuring is done visually, so you won't go all the way to the outside for W or M. You will keep it within that space, so it's beyond the margin of the square, but not all the way to the outside, because much of our lettering work is visual spacing and visual proportions. I'll come to that as we proceed. Now the M also, don't spread it out as much as the W. The M comes much closer to the square measure, than the W does. But nonetheless, both of them are wide letters. Alright, let me just count and see if we are done. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S. S is over here. S is in this small part. So, the S doesn't go like this. It turns over here, slightly higher, and then there's like a diagonal line that comes and touches this part. S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. All done. So, you can actually practice writing these here, and often classic calligraphers will do that. So you start off with the letters A, then the half can be over here, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth. And you can write all the letters in just this space, and it looks absolutely beautiful. So the J will come here like this. K, L, M, it almost looks like a picture made by like the Vitruvian Man made by Da Vinci. And if you think about it, Da Vinci was born 1500 years, almost 2000 years after this script was already being used. That's as much as us versus I mean, he's closer to us than when the Roman script was developed. So when you see the Vitruvian man, the picture of the man standing with his arms outstretched, legs outstretched, and he's created that measure of how proportions in the body all are I guess proportionate to each other. It must have come from something like this that he studied, or at least been in the presence of. So now that you have this basic grid to write Roman letters under your belt, and if you can practice this, a lot of lettering starts becoming easy because now you can start seeing the shapes of the letters in proportion to each other. So let's try writing your name. Now, the one factor that we haven't discussed is spacing between letters. So you can decide on what space you want between letters. You start off with something called the baseline and a cap height. So cap height is nothing but the height of the letters you want to maintain. Now imagine yourself as stone carvers who has to carve a certain edict onto marble, and that's going to be put up somewhere in the kingdom. You start off with first marking out the letters as they will be needed. So let's say I'm writing my name. I need only this space. You don't need the whole square. So I'll make that square. In the letter in the front, it doesn't matter. Make the circle. And I need only so much space. This is the block that I need for my A. And then I need to leave some space for D. D is going to use up the whole square. But whatever space I leave between A and D, I have to continue throughout. So I can't just go ahead and make square after square after square. What happens if the letter is narrow? Then there will be too much space left between them and they will become illegible, unreadable, or uncomfortable to read. So you decide on the space, but as you can see, these squares will overlap each other if you make them as squares. So I'm leaving just this extra space that we left around the square, just that much more for my D, which comes in not a square, but a little less than. See how the D fits? It does not need this space, correct? So it is a little bit of math, I admit. So the next circle comes here, but I'm going to use just the second part of it. So I'm overlapping this extra sliver that I will not use to write the D. I'm overlapping this on top of this extra sliver of the A, so that the space that I leave between the letters is only this much, this extra sliver. And then I do the same for I. For I only need half a square, so I'm not even bothering to make the next. T, I need the slightly bigger shape, so I will center my T such that I get that space in the middle and then leave that extra space and make the I again. That is how we would have to mathematically plot the letters, and then we can write them. Once that is done, you can just start writing. Now I am going to make crossbars on my I. because otherwise the space is too vacant. Okay, have you got this?
This class took me back to the engineering lettering class. So before I joined medicine, I was doing engineering at COEP.
Oh my
And
God.
what a nightmare that class was.
Yeah, it can be. Everyone hates the lettering in engineering, even architecture, they hate it. But it's a beautiful, it can be converted and made so beautiful.
The problem is those professors or whatever, they want you to do it in a particular thickness, the particular faintness of the letter, no
Yeah,
overdrawing.
yeah.
And
That will.
and it's put up on the board, you're just supposed to copy. So nobody tells you how you're supposed to do it.
Oh, okay, okay. So sad.
That's what I vaguely remember now. This is also 20 years ago, I guess.
I don't know why there is such, well, we know why it is like that. Anyway, so now is it clear how you can break up the letters and make them uh, equidistant? So, what we have to look at when you're doing lettering is, or to make beautiful letters, um, you have to look at the proportion, of course. Baseline, um, height of letters, and in all of this, you have to maintain consistency. There is one more thing that I'd like to add, which is thickness. And this will come in when we are doing the other letters. But there are, in the Roman letters, you will find that they're not monoline. So, a monoline is a line which you can make with a pen like this. It's a predicted, uh, prescribed, predetermined thickness. But Roman letters would look like this. You have one thickness on the left, on the line that was on the left, say the letter A, and on the right it is much thicker. And this happened because these letters were written with a brush first, and then they were carved into whatever stone they were meant to. So in the Donald Jackson documentary, you will see this very beautifully demonstrated. And then you will see that they also had what's called serifs. And these serifs came very naturally because of the tool that was used for carving. So there is a technique with which you manipulate the brush and create these serifs also. Then you have the crossbar, which is again a little thinner, or actually a little thicker than the the stroke on the left. But you did not have any serif on the top. You always had a nice point to the A on top. Now, with this in shape in place, you can do these thicknesses are predetermined because of the angle at which you hold a brush, and this would be at a 15-degree angle. So you will write with a flat brush held at 15-degree angle. So when you draw a line going sideways to one angle, this is how the brush would move. So you get this thickness. And if you want it coming to the right, it would obviously be this thickness coming all the way to the right. So it's two different thicknesses in play here. So later on in the month, I am going to show you a little bit of this. So if you guys are interested in pursuing Roman letters, at least you should know what to expect when we do brush lettering. But till then, just know that thicknesses in letters is also a factor that you have to maintain for beautiful writing. Now, if you want to get creative with letters, what can you do? We can make letters like this. You have to decide on some rules. And maybe one rule is that if this is our letter, here the rule is writing it with with a brush at 15, that is held at 15 degrees. That's the rule, and you get whatever you get. But then you can also create something like this where each of these lines can artificially be made thin in the middle and thick at the ends. And see what kind of shape you get. Now, how to achieve this, we can always work out. But a lot of lettering artists and font designers spend a lot of time making alphabets in different forms, but they will design um, the entire series of alphabets so that they all look like one family. So in this case, now we have decided this is how our angular strokes are going to be. They're more or less the same size. And you could also say that you don't want the crossbar to be horizontal. Maybe you want it to be like this. So this starts becoming more creative. So what happened was after till about the mid 1400s, I think 1460s or so, all documents were written by hand till a point when a guy named Gutenberg decided to create the first printing machine, but that also only for Latin. Before that, 900 years, the Chinese were printing already with wood blocks. But what he made was a movable type. That there's a fantastic documentary on that also, which I'll share with you. That's my other comfort documentary to Google. So in that, he standardized the script and started using the same type everywhere so that everyone could read and understand the same thing. But till then, a lot of the letter artists were free to create their own letters. And we want to get into that sphere. I'll show you the documentary on the Gutenberg press, but what we want to do is have fun with more shapes. The other thing we can also do now for creative lettering is maybe something like this. Add serifs and make the letters more dramatic maybe. And if you want to, then just make a thick border around all this. And all the border or all the outlines also can be concave towards the letter form. So bending inward. And this will give you one more kind of letter. And this is how I built the lettering book. I think many of you have that now. So use this almost like that doodle a day exercise. Create different kinds of letters. So there are certain rules in letters also to make them look pretty. You can't just do anything and make the letters look good. There is a definite measure and spacing, let's say, a space distribution, strokes, and whatnot to make the letters look good. The one important factor is distribution of space. So while you are making the letter, the space that you leave around the letter and around the flourishes is very important. So you have space within the letter, between strokes, letters, and words. And this space must be evenly distributed at all times, and eventually also lines. And then, of course, we have space around flourishes and ornamentation. So, flourishes are strokes like these. I won't go into ornamentation right now. So, in all these cases, it is space that supports your letters. And wherever you are making peculiar shapes, between letters, the space between has to accommodate it well. So let's try writing a few decorative letters. Suppose I want to write the word, what word can I write? I'll write the word Daisy. It's one of my cat's names. So how do the letters look in the word Daisy? And what are the possibilities? So, whenever you are making any decorative lettering, each word can have a different kind of lettering possibility. That's why hand lettering works so much better for this than ready fonts. So, what do we have with Daisy? We have one descender, we have one word which is just an I, but then I can also have a tittle. We have two letters which are quite straightforward. They can't do much, but they have hollow spaces, and you have one which is a serpentine space. So how can we accommodate all of that? All right, so now the easiest one to do is just write Daisy in the proportion, in that Roman proportion that we've got, right? And now you can do it visually also. So you just have to make sure that the spacing between them is even, whatever spacing you have, it's consistent. This should be the easiest, and you should be able to do this pretty easily by now. Now, to this form, I can add a certain thickness. So, all I do is add some vertical lines like this for the D on the upright stem, and a vertical line along the curve. which I will round off then. So I'll fill this up, fill this up. This looks very abnormal. So I'm going to round this off along the corners. This looks pretty nice. Then on the inside of the A, on the stem on the right, I will make some thickness. The entire eye becomes thick, but I might make thickness on both sides because I don't want to make one space less than the other. The S has got thickness in the middle. And the Y will have thickness on, let's say, on the left leaning line, because then it goes well with the A. We have maintained consistency of logic. Right? So already it's starting to look a little more impressive. Now to this we can add, oh, am I there? Or am I stuck? Oops, Wi-Fi has gone down. Okay, is everyone here? Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me? All right, okay. Okay, so um, were you able to follow this or did I log off, bump off? Okay. Now to this very same thing, we can add serifs. And now serifs are nothing but extra lines.
Hello.
Sorry?
Aditi, your image is getting stuck. I'm not sure if it's just for me.
No, me too. I think my Wi-Fi over here is a little dodgy. How is everyone else feeling? Am I getting stuck?
It's just a bit soft sometimes. Otherwise, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's carry on. So far, is this all clear? Do you want me to explain something? Okay. Okay, now I'm going to add some extra lines. So for the D, I'm going to add two horizontal lines on the top and bottom. The A, I'm going to add a line just to the bottom. I, top and bottom, very short lines. Y also, top, both and bottom.
Can't see very clearly. That's a
Oh, okay.
little hazy.
Now,
That's
okay, I'll just hold it up. And for the S, I can make a serif on the top and not make one at the bottom, but you can also make it at the bottom if you want. Now, if you want to do something more to this, you can see how the letters fit into each other to have more fun with them. So we could have, um, we could tilt them, or we can do something like add a flourish on D. So can do this. Then you can have maybe a flourish that comes out from the A. I, S, and Y. And you can decide on what all you want to choose from this. All letters don't have to be flourished. So maybe you can have a D that is plain. You can have an I that comes down like that. S and Y. Now the Y also goes around the S quite gracefully. And can you see now there's a possibility of joining a few things? So you can actually make a shape like this eventually, in which you can have D, A, I. And this is how logos get created. So you don't have to go all the way to creating logos, but at least you can see how you can play around with letters so that when you're writing your journals or something, you can make the letters look more fun. One of my other cat's names is Lilo. So in this, I can write something like, and what I like to do is maybe even do something like this. Now, this is all just my calligraphy time pass. So when you're playing around with letters, don't worry about readability. That will come. You will fine tune the letters so that the letters become readable. But it's so much fun to just play around with letters as a tool, almost like watercolor, to create such interesting forms. Right, so one thing that I wanted to show you was how to play with the baseline. Very often, you might have something like an illustration that requires you to write on a curve. Say we are doing travel illustration, which we're going to do next month, and you want to write the name of a country or a city in a wave form. So you have something like Turkey. So the first thing is to create a very gentle wave. What you want to avoid is making a wave that is like this. No. It's impossible to read letters in this kind of extreme curve. So keep them gentle. And now the one rule for making letters on any curves is following the
Hey,
rule.
Aditi,
Yeah.
We can barely see anything on the page.
Oh my God, really? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
We can see the ink, but not the pencil. Yeah.
Even, okay, I'll show you what I mean. I'll draw this part in pen. Okay, so if you must have seen arches, brick arches. So in order to create a brick arch, first what they do is make a wooden form like that, and on top of that they will lay the bricks. Now the shape of the brick is a rectangle, right? So they will place rectangular bricks perpendicular to the curve. And as you proceed, you will notice, sorry, make this straight, straight, however this sits. You will see that the bricks sit in such a manner that they are closer to each other, closer to the curve, and there's more space away from the curve because that is how they distribute. Pretty much like how our fingers are, right? Space at the tips of the fingers is more, but over here they're closer. So the rule is to place the letter on the perpendicular at that point. So if we're going to write, say, the word turkey, you know now how to create blocks. So for now, you can just make equal size blocks. They should be perpendicular on the center, not on the sides, on the center. Now over here, I want the letter U at this point. I will draw a perpendicular and then I will make my brick on that perpendicular. Here I want the letter R like this. I will make my brick like this. And so on and so forth. Now when we turn the other way around, the rule still applies, but the spacing will be opposite. Now for E, if I want the E here, there'll be less space on top. Here there's more space on top between letters, and here there's more space at the bottom between letters because obviously the curve is bending in the other direction. Is this visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. And now beyond this, you know how to make the letter forms. You know that the circle for U will be like this. R is only in half. K is going to be slightly different. I'm going to show you. E and Y. So here's how our turkey is going to look. And we will pull down this stem beautifully outward. For K, again, don't make the K start right there, the leg of the K. Take it up on the arm just a little bit. And now you will get a beautiful, very evenly spaced title. To make it more prominent, we can increase the thickness of the letters. I don't have a thicker pen than a 0.4. Otherwise, I would have just gone all over the line right from the center. Okay, now you can try writing on a concave or a convex curve, sorry. So you have your baseline, your cap height, and just try writing whatever you want on this. Oh, 1 minute, I can show you one more thing. So, if you've understood how to write one word in this form, how do you write two words? Like if I were to write the words, um, what name some flowers, not with very big names, orchid garden, let's say. So the word orchid needs to be more prominent, and we want to fit it on a curve like this. You can split it in half and then place 3 letters on one side and 3 letters on the other, maintaining the space between over here. And then for the word garden, you don't have to write it exactly the same way. You can make a rectangle underneath this, where again you will split the letters on either side of the center line. And then fit them here. In many cases, you won't have to do that whole Roman distribution proportion, but it helps to know generally how much space you have to leave. Don't bother with memorizing all of that also. So in this case, I have a big O here. I'm leaving the R unmade, a big C, because that's the whole oval. I and D. And the R, we have this vacant space here, so I can actually pull the R around like this, just because there is space. So this is how you write more than one word. You can center align, left align, right align, anyhow. You can keep the letters any way you want to, as long as you understand how spacing works and how to align letters according to the amount of space you have. You don't have to start from the top to the come to the bottom, or from the left to right. Okay, now do you guys want to try making something of your own? and then I can just check if you've got it, and also you can check if you've got it, so that if there's any help you need, I could give you some tips.
Aditi, I've done this, a
Okay,
banner that says winner.
let's
I don't
see.
know if you see it.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, so the flourish on the W, na?
Hmm.
That one, you could change that to
Okay.
making it on the first stroke instead of that one, because we have to also look at balancing it out with the rest of the letters.
Correct.
So, I couldn't see your banner. Merit also, have you made it convex like that?
Yeah, concave.
Bending down or bending up?
Bending up.
Bending up, all right. So, if this is our banner, so in banners also, you have to make sure that the two ends are um, also perpendicular.
Yeah.
Okay, then we want to write the word winner. So you break it in half and then make all these. So you must have done this, right?
Yeah.
Alright. And then you can write. So, first, if you have a banner itself, it is decorative enough for you to not do anything on the letters.
Okay.
That is one. And then, if you do, look at how it reflects on the rest of the letters together. It's like a team effort. So, your W extending out from here was not
Yeah.
helping, but distracting. But now, if we have this stroke balanced with this stroke, it can still make sense.
Correct.
So if you wanted the W to come from the front, you could have probably done something like this, where it mattered that somebody else also did the same. So this almost looks like two hands clapping
Oh, yeah.
the air. Ani, we are so gullible to anthropomorphizing anything, whether it is strokes or letters. We love to see that, and in that, then we can actually grasp the meaning of the word also better. So these are very subtle design, not problems, I would say, choices. And this is what graphic design or lettering or typography is all about. But it's not difficult. And yes, you can do a 4-year course in typography and you'll be excellent at it. But if you start following just a few rules of how letters work and how they work for us, and try to do a little less than more, slowly you'll start feeling more confident. Let me see.
Looks much better already.
Ah, there you go. Lovely. And imagine how much fun we would have had if this was taught in school. All these posters that we had to make for school for all the projects, they were no fun. Everybody just took some sketch pen and tried to write it. But there's so many different ways you can write letters. It would have been so much fun.
So this is what I've got.
Okay.
And I don't know how to accentuate the S, like the last letter. I want that to also have a flair, kind of.
So the first P, don't turn it
Mm-hmm.
into the letter. It can turn outside. I'll show you how to.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the S also, we can. Let's see. There's multiple options. I'll try and make some for you and show you.
Okay.
Aditi, can I sign off? I need to feed
Yeah,
the
yeah.
boys.
Yeah, not a problem.
Bye.
Not a problem.
I'll just show mine as well, and then you can, or you want to do them separately? Can I?
No, no, let me see yours and I can do them together. Gateway to Mumbai. Nice. Yeah,
My,
good.
uh,
The Mumbai could be spread out.
yeah. Also, even how do you judge like the center point? Because when I did it, like what you call by letter, saying E is like there are 3 letters this side, 3 letters this side, but actually, I don't think it. Yeah.
No,
So
which letter?
how do I judge?
No, you should know that BAI is definitely going to be shorter than MUM because it's got 2 M's in it. And the I, yeah, I
Along
will,
the curve.
yeah, so it has to turn a little bit. I'll show you both. Okay, so princess, your basic letters have been written very nicely. So you've got that balance. Anytime you have to write a flourish, write that last. Because this is what you can do. You can, here's one thing that I would like to do. Instead of the S,
Mhm.
I can make the E. And S like this. But there have to be gaps. And the R can also come like so. But it can't be the same curve. They have to look different. And to this, you don't really need a flourish on the P at all.
Mhm.
So you should leave it be because that flourish becomes a serif. And if the P has a serif, then everything else also has a serif. So here I'll show you a P that has that serif. The reason why we do it like this is because in again a historic script, your P's were written with a flourish like this. But the stem would rarely ever be flourished without the bowl being flourished. And if we do the two together, this is how it looks. Wholly excessive. May not really work. So you need both, or you need, if there's only one, then you should do this one. And there are other reasons also for it. Now I need to put a serif at the bottom, otherwise it will not balance. Then I need to put a serif on all of this. I'm still leaving the bottom, the leg undone, or the foot. For the end, technically we don't have to put a serif on the bottom right, but in the beginning, even if you put it, that's fine. C and S will also have a serif only on the top. You can make a ball terminal with this. And if you want to, this is how we can experiment. So you expand, make the size bigger. But look at how the negative space over here flows into the flourish. There is a lot of importance given to negative space. This is how it will work. So this flourish will talk to this flourish, and it makes sense then, all this together. So there is a certain balance.
Yeah, this looks like the movie's poster. I get it. Yeah.
All right, now the last one, Gateway to Mumbai.
Is there a kind of rule for flourishes? I mean, is there something?
Yes, there is a rule for flourishes. And I will be showing you that later when we do introduction to formal calligraphy, because those are, I mean, they're not very simple, and they're not as easy as 1, 2, 3. For that, I'll have to give you a little background of the scripts from where the flourishes have come. Okay, so this is gateway. And now what I've done is I have made lines for only the centers of the letters. So GATEWAY, and I will write the letters from the center. Now the W has shifted a little to the right, so I'll shift the A to the right. This is how I make lettering on the fly. and I look at making the spaces in between seem to be even. Now, to Mumbai, 2 is here, and Mumbai is over here. Again, you do the same thing, but you know that there's an I over here. So, you can make the M a little to the right. And you can manipulate the size of the U. Now that I've written the letters, I know how much space I have here and how little I have over here. And I need my letters to fit only within this much so that I can bump them around here or there and change it. So, every time you ink, you have the opportunity to change something and correct it, perfect it, modify, reshape. So use the pencil lines as the guideline. And keep looking at the space you have left. Hand lettering is not like typewriting. So you can really have fun with it. You can also manipulate it to a large extent. And then this will look good. There are days when I mess up big time. And in that case, I will add a flourish. So if I add something like this to the right, to the left, I could make it shorter. And to your eye, it's possible that this will look like it's right underneath the letters in a certain way, so everything looks even. We can really trick our eyes to see what we wanted to see. Okay? Cool. So for next week, we will do a little bit of historic lettering. I'm going to show you how to do Gothic lettering. So for that, we'll use these chisel markers. You get chisel markers called alpha chisel or super chisel or something. You get a set of 10 for 100 or 110 bucks or 120. You just need at least 3 colors. They are often sold separately. So you can get a black, red, and a green or a blue or something like that, or just buy the whole set. You can practice a lot with that. All right. Okay, so enjoy lettering. Please share on the group whatever you make. This is going to come very handy next month when we are going to do travel illustration. Okay.
On lettering, because you know that fonts are available, I kind of shy away from doing lettering properly. I think
Oh, you won't anymore. Now you'll be able to do a lot better. Already I'm sure that there must be a lot of clarity on how letters work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be much easier now. All right. Okay. Thank you for adjusting, and I'll see
Thank
you
you.
next week. Bye.
Bye.